Welcome back to our first episode of Just Getting Started, the only podcast where we give advice, tactical, really good advice to people in the creative industry looking to just get started, doing whatever they want. Today, we have guest Allie Mischen, music photographer, EDM, punk rock star. Would you say that's a fair description?
I think that we can keep it.
I think so. I think it's a great
I was
description.
waiting to see what you were going to introduce me as.
I think live music photographer is like a very overall encompassing of what you
I
are.
always say,
what would you say you are?
It depends. I either say music photographer just to keep it brief, but if I do the whole thing, it's live music and portrait because that's the two that I do.
So you do portraits too?
Yeah, I haven't as much as I used to. I used to do a lot of portrait work. That's where I was able to do creative work. Because for a long time, live music stuff was very business-y for me, and I never considered myself an artist until a year ago, which is crazy because we are. That's the whole point. On my website, it's like live music and portraits.
That's very good. What do you usually do portraits of? Just whoever, or just kind of like musicians?
Yeah, so I started.
Can I get some portraits of me?
You've asked me to do some before, and then I've asked you to do some before, and then it's just it's never happened. So I started out just doing them with my friends to build up a portfolio of them because I always wanted to do portraits of artists like before their sets. That's kind of where portraits really do get incorporated within music. And so I haven't done a lot because it's just so don't have time for that.
Totally. I mean, music photography is incredible amount of time.
Spring Awakening was the last thing that I wrapped. Well, no, I did a show like 2 days ago, but it was the last big thing that I wrapped. And so all of my answers will probably be related to that today. It's fine. But at festivals, I would say is my main artist portrait.
Okay.
Work.
Dope. Love that. Now let's take it back to the beginning.
I know.
Talked about you shooting Spring Awakening this weekend. You shot how many artists?
You were there too.
I was there too. We shot together for one of the
did.
artists. How many artists did you shoot for Spring Awakening?
Spring Awakening.
You shot,
Spring Awakening, I was going into the weekend with, I think, 4 or 5 artists booked, and I ended up doing 8. So almost doubled it.
That's pretty great.
But that's how it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is. It's stressful because you worked so hard on booking music festivals.
Yeah.
Like as a photographer, Spring Awakening was horrible for me. I will 100% admit that. I worked on Spring Awakening probably 9 hours a day for 2 months before it. I'm not over exaggerating that at all.
Yeah.
And it was really fucking stressful because about a week before the festival, I was talking to my mom about it and I was talking to our friend Brandon about it. And I was like, I'm just considering it an L at this point. It's not going to happen. I've done absolutely everything I can. I've reached out to everyone. I've pulled every last connection that I have. It's just not going to work. Yeah. And then a few hours after that, I was like, that's not how I operate. And then sent out about 40 more emails. Yeah. And then it was the night before Spring Awakening, and I think you and I were talking about it. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. I was literally just showing up there on Friday, and I fully mentally prepared myself to be turned away and be like, you don't have credentials here. Like, you have to leave.
But you were showing up, like, it's not like you're showing up uninvited. It's not like you're sneaking in.
Yeah, I did.
You had
basically what
people
happened,
to tell you.
Yeah, basically what happened was there was one artist who told me, like, I got you a 3-day photo pass. And I was like, I don't think that's a thing, but gotta take your word for it. Well, no, I did confirm it with her. And I basically was like, is it like a 3-day guest pass and then like a photo pass for the day that you're playing? Or is it like a 3-day photo pass? And she was like, let me talk to artist relations.
I think what you're saying, though, like, everything was just a little disorganized, but it wasn't really because of you. It was more because of the react part.
I did fine.
So what ended up happening, you ended up shooting 8 artists. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's take it back to the beginning and start off, like, how did you first get started? Because that's what this whole podcast is about. Yes. People, like, getting started. People see the work that you do, and then you're like, how do you even, like, get
DMs.
into the first concert to shoot at?
Okay. So we're gonna go into my life story real quick. Gotta sum it up real fast. 6.5 years ago is when I first picked up a camera. My mom got me a very shitty DSLR camera. Wasn't shitty back then.
Yeah.
But I had.
What was the camera?
It was a Canon Rebel T3i.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people start with.
Yeah, it's a beginner camera.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
so, but that camera came out in 2011, and I got it in 2013, so it was still like a new camera.
Fair.
And I had a lot of friends. I was 15 at the time. I started extremely young in the industry, which is how I don't want to be like how successful I am today, but when you have like 6 years of work behind yourself, you're gonna be a little bit farther ahead than most people.
Yeah.
And so I was 15
because you still have a shit ton of room to grow. You're really not a ton, but like the work that you do, it's great. So it's like you've been shooting for so long, and that's how it's gotten.
I'm 21
so
now, if you didn't do the math already. But yeah, so I had a lot of friends who were in local bands, and I just started taking my camera to their shows, and these were like 200 cap venues, like small stuff, coffee shop shows, just any venue that didn't have.
So like. For people that like, I think it's easy to say like, oh, I just like took my camera to the shows, but like there's so many.
That was what I was about to talk about.
There's so many ways to like you have to get in. How were you getting into those shows? That was my next point
before you cut me off.
Okay, well I was just making sure you talked about it. You didn't keep going.
The rest of that sentence was venues that don't have a camera policy. That was the end of that sentence. Okay. So I was going to venues that did not have a camera policy, so you could just take whatever in there. Very dangerous, but this was 5 years ago. So a little bit of a different time where there wasn't bag checks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I also wasn't doing anything illegal. I wasn't sneaking in my camera. Have done that before, though, too, as many artists have started out by doing stuff like that. Yeah. But I fell in love with it really quickly, and I've always been the kind of person, like throughout middle school and high school, I was always trying to find like my thing, like the thing that I was good at, like the thing that I was number one at, because I've always been like good at like things here and there, but I've always wanted to just be number one at one thing, and that's it, and I'm the best at that, and that's it. So I sucked at first, though, as everyone does. I was horrible. Some of my first photos are so fucking bad. They're really bad. And I don't have
add them over this.
No, I've looked for them.
You don't have them?
No.
What about the beginning ones on your Instagram?
What?
You deleted everything on your Instagram?
So a couple months ago, I think, I actually did go through my Instagram, because I knew I had like 700 something posts, which isn't too crazy, because like for the amount of time that I've been shooting. And I went and I looked through, and I was like, there was stuff on there, like personal stuff, like not even like, and I was like, why haven't I cleaned this before? And so I went through, and now I have like 200 something posts on there. Oh, wow. And I wasn't planning on wiping that much, but there was a lot of bad content on there that I had to get rid of. But some of I think my earliest posts on there are probably like 2015, 2016.
That's not that old.
No.
2015, 2016?
Yeah. Should I check?
No, don't check. But
he doesn't want me to grab my phone. But so I did that for 2 years. I basically built up a portfolio of my work. I had no idea what I was doing. I was 15. You don't know how the music industry works when you're 15. Yeah. And I also grew up in a very, 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 very small town in Western Pennsylvania, where we only have stop signs. There are no traffic lights. Yeah. Fun fact. So everything that I was doing was so far away from everything that I knew. So I really was teaching myself absolutely everything. Yeah. And I've always been the kind of person who I love learning about stuff that I'm interested in, and I hate learning about stuff that I don't want to learn about. Of course. And so all I would do is just read any article that I could find. I would Google how to concert photography and then just read absolutely everything. And I would DM like photographers that maybe had like 20, 30, 40K and were out touring with some of the artists that I listened to. And so many of them got back to me and were really nice and told me the kind of gear that they worked with, and just like little facts here and there, because no one has time to answer your DM and tell them your life story. Yeah. And that's the majority of the DMs that I get is, how do I become a concert photographer? And I'm like, this is why we need this.
Yes, exactly. That is really this entire point of this podcast.
But so I built up a portfolio for like 2 years, and in 2015, I was 17, and that's when I started getting my first credentials and started getting paid for stuff.
Yeah.
And which is still so young to
Yeah,
start
super
professionally
young.
working at 17. I was
Super
still
young.
a minor, which was not good all the time.
Yeah.
Because I did interviews before a little bit here and there. And there were some artists, I had always looked older though. And so there were some artists that like would make comments and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm a minor. Like,
Yeah.
this is not good. But that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So things have changed since then. But yeah, when I was still living in Pittsburgh. I have to really think back on like this time frame because
Yeah.
it's so specific. But yeah, so 2015, my first photo pass that I ever had, fun fact, was Warped Tour 2015, which I hustled for that shit. I should not have had a photo pass.
So
'Cause
when you're saying like you had photo passes and stuff, and like when you started getting like the photo passes, how does like someone who's new in the game get a photo pass? How does that?
You have to
come
know
about?
your genre. And this
Yeah.
is something that I've recently learned about because I grew up shooting alternative music. I mean, anything that was like rock or pop punk, indie, metal, all of that stuff was what I worked in because that's what I listened to. And shooting alternative music versus shooting like electronic music is so incredibly different.
Mhm.
And we'll talk about this later because I did transition from alternative music to electronic music, and it slapped me in the face.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for it at all. But I guess I should just cover both.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So for alternative,
just like the beginning steps, because I think people.
yeah,
I think it's easy to go into like to get. It's nothing's easy to get started.
I'll sum it up in like a step-by-step process.
Everything's always about momentum and gaining
Yeah.
mass before you have the velocity to do something. And I think what the really hard thing in concert photography to gain is like those beginning pictures to get you the photo credentials. And like
Yeah.
what I want to stress is like how people can tactically get those photo passes so that like this information could be like, useful and like put to use to them. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Step 1, build up a portfolio
Yeah.
of your work. Make a shitty website or just use your Instagram. Doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
Step 2, if you're going for alternative music, I would say find a publication,
Yeah.
find a magazine, someone that will bring you on as a photo contributor. Read your contracts before you
that's
sign them.
A massive thing for you because you
That's
you
how I
were
started.
a part of Photo Magazine, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
how
yeah.
did you get started doing publication
So
stuff?
mine was really just like right place, right time.
Yeah.
When I was 17, I got signed to Strife magazine. Shout out to them. I still work with them today. I'm
Yeah.
doing Firefly for them, which
Yeah.
is so crazy.
How long ago was that?
4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 years ago. And so they were mainly based over in Europe.
Mhm.
My like editors and stuff, they live in Germany. So cool. Really sucks when we're trying to get a hold of each other because
Yeah.
we're on completely different schedules.
Yeah.
But they didn't have that many US photo people. And they had around 10K on Twitter.
Yeah.
So definitely not a smaller publication because when you're talking about an online alternative music magazine, it's such a specific market.
Totally.
So having 10,000 people who are viewing your content, and that's just followers, because then you
Right.
can get into monthly website statistics, which matter to people.
Yeah.
And we get about like half a million per
Mhm.
month, which is crazy. But I sent probably 100 emails to different magazines and was like, here's my portfolio. Let me shoot shows for you. It was a
Yeah.
lot more professional than that. It probably wasn't actually because I was 17. And then I would say a good ratio is like you reach out to 100 people, you'll probably get 10 responses.
Like 100 publications?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
if you just send 100 emails, you will get 10 replies. And then 2 of them will be a maybe.
Yeah.
1 of them will be a yes, and then the rest are just no's.
Yeah.
So
It's a numbers game.
yeah. The more people that you reach out to.
What was in your portfolio when you sent it out to Strife? What?
know.
Yeah, it was just
I don't even know.
yeah.
Um,
What was
just
it? Was there
local
even
bands.
concert? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was like
yeah. Know who you're reaching out to and what if you're gonna send a portfolio to someone to do concert photography, your portfolio has to be of concert photography.
Yeah.
And so that's where me shooting for all these local bands came into play.
Totally.
That's how I built up my portfolio. It wasn't good. I don't know why they brought me on, but they did.
Did you ever reach out to the local bands over like Instagram DMs? Were you even on it? Like, was Instagram even a thing when you were doing that?
So I definitely had Instagram. I feel so old talking about this.
I mean,
Did we have Instagram? No, I
Yeah.
definitely had Instagram, but I knew all of them personally. So that's why, like, they were my friends. That's how I got started with them. And I mean, we're talking bands with 100 followers.
Yeah, with like
people who do the same stuff.
And I think even if you don't have friends that are local in a local band, you could
Just
I
reach
think
out.
anyone would
If
be
you're just like, I have
open
a camera.
to 100%.
If you're like, I have a camera, they'll 100%
and shoot them
let
for
you.
free, of course,
Yeah.
because you don't have any
Yeah.
portfolio work. You're doing it for portfolio work. You have to go free to fee before
Absolutely.
you can start making money at all.
We'll talk about like free work versus
Yeah.
paid work because that's
Yeah.
a big topic
Yeah.
between creatives.
So that's the beginning, right?
Well, yeah. So basically, Strife took a chance with me. It was right place, right time. They had enough followers where I could get approved for the stuff that I wanted to shoot. And I also had kind of free reign because there wasn't a lot of US photographers. So I could reach out for like any tour that I wanted to. Because when you have like 10 photographers in the United States and we're all shooting in different cities, I mean, you can't shoot the same tour 10 different times.
Right.
So it was nice because I really just was able to do kind of whatever I wanted, and they really trusted me. I reach out to all of my own people. So like I contact the publicist on behalf of the magazine,
Gotcha.
which I don't think it normally goes that way. I think most.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think the editor-in-chief is the one who will usually send those out. Bigger publications will sometimes have a spreadsheet where you get access to it, and then you can just input what you want to do, and then that's it. Almost is like a work schedule, like how you can check it online.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so, I was just doing that for about 2 years, and in 2017, when I was 19, there's a pattern. Every 2 years, I hit something big.
Like bigger than you were, yeah.
Yeah, and so when I was 19, I was 19 now, is when I started doing my first festivals.
Yeah.
And so in 2017, I shot my first music festival. Do you know which one it is?
Bunbury?
Yeah, it was Bunbury,
Yeah.
which Victor calls Burberry. And it changed my life.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, my whole idea was like, all right, I'm going to keep working with these bands and network with them and gain more experience and then go on tour with them. And that's going to be my life. And I had no idea that like this whole other world of live music photography existed.
Yeah.
And then, I shot that festival and I was like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing, but I also am so excited and I'm so in love with this. And that was where I shot my first EDM artist ever, which was the Chainsmokers.
Really?
The first time we met, we talked about this, how the first ever electronic music artist I photographed was the Chainsmokers. And
so let's not get that confused though with like getting hired by the Chainsmokers, because if you're shooting them.
Well, that's why your wording has to be careful, because if I say I've photographed these people, that can mean anything.
Right.
If I've worked specifically for them, you will hear people say, I worked for the Chainsmokers,
Right,
or
right,
I shot
right,
this
right.
for.
Right.
That word is super specific.
Right.
And you have to be careful about that. But if I just say, like, the first time I shot this artist, like, it can be anything.
Totally.
And so, like, the first rap artist that I shot was there. The first EDM artist I shot was there. And, it was, I tend to do stuff like that, though. Like, I will hit a big milestone like that, and then all of my firsts are like that show. Yeah. Which adds a lot of pressure onto what you're doing, but pressure is good. And then like 2 or 3 weeks after that, I shot. Well, no, I didn't. I went to Firefly. I had a media pass for that.
And you got the media pass through the publication.
Yeah, through the publication. It's really hard to get hired for festivals as a freelancer. Not impossible, but this festival season in general has been really weird. Yeah. I've been looking over a lot of contracts, and not only mine, but other people's, just to kind of see like what are we doing? What's going on? And the artist pass situation has been crazy.
What do you mean?
It's really bad. I'm not going to say specific festivals because I don't want to get sued. But basically, a lot of festivals are really cracking down on what approved media is allowed to do.
Yeah.
So this festival season, I was looking at a few different festivals that I'm about to go photograph. And if you wanted to go out with an artist and be that artist's photographer, basically you had to sign a contract that would say that you can only shoot that artist and no one else at the festival. You can only shoot.
That's kind of good though. It's kind of good because then you don't get people posting like other people's content that they didn't want out.
That's
and
not the
a lot
bad
of
one.
and a lot of other stuff.
They also said that you had to be escorted onto the stage by the tour manager, which just makes us feel like children. Like we can't walk around by ourselves. And then there was a weird thing about crowd shots. I think I talked to you about this before. It was basically like you can't take crowd shots. I don't know if it meant taking photos of the crowd or taking photos from the crowd. It was worded very weirdly. And then there was also the whole like, if we catch you violating any of this, we can break your SD cards. Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot.
To be like, we can break your shit.
Yeah.
I feel like festivals should not be allowed to
do
that.
After like you started shooting for publication, have you shot for I know you've shot for specific artists.
Yeah.
So how does that come about? When did you make the switch from just shooting for the publication to then shooting for both your publication and freelancing for artists?
So I started a decent amount of time ago, like 6 years ago, but I've progressed really slowly. And I can 100% admit to that.
Yeah.
Partially because I just didn't know what, it's not that I didn't know what I was doing. I just didn't know what the next steps were. I didn't really know even what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until the fall of last year where a lot of my friends were working within electronic music and I started listening to it. And I'm the kind of person that I work within the genre that I listen to.
Yeah.
And I was just falling out of love with alternative music. And it definitely was because I kind of felt like I did everything that I wanted to at that point. I remember really specifically, it was in December and I was shooting for one of my favorite bands of all time. And I had interviewed them before. And I remember that like, when I interviewed them, I thought I was going to throw up. And
like
that's
you were
a
so
big
excited.
deal for me.
Yeah.
I was nervous. Like that was like one of my all-time favorite bands. And I was shooting one of their shows and I just didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care at all. I was so like uninspired and unmotivated. And that was so scary to me because I mean, concert photography had been my life for like a few, like almost like 3.5 years at that point.
Yeah.
And to like not get excited about the shit that used to make you want to throw up with excitement is terrifying. Because if I didn't have that, like I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And so I took 2 months off and I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to go into electronic music, but I didn't really know. It's not that I didn't know how. I just didn't have any contacts within it. I didn't know any artists. I didn't know any publicists or managers at all. And the magazine that I was signed to only worked in alternative music, and that's all I knew.
So where did the switch come in? How did you get over?
I
mean, it's way easier to get over from different genres than to go from corporate to
absolutely,
shooting something that's totally different. Like you can't go from shooting corporate portraits to then. Yeah.
And that was the whole thing because my mindset was like, how hard can it be? It's live music photography. It's not going to be different. And then I basically just like pulled my head out of my ass and stopped feeling sorry for myself and was like, got to figure it out. Like you got to do this. And so I reached out to like other publications and were just like, do you guys shoot like EDM stuff? Like, can I shoot that for you? And they were like, sure. And I got really lucky with that as well. And then I did my first my first show of the year was Dylan Francis and Alice in Wonderland here at Navy Pier.
And that was for a publication?
That was for a publication because I didn't know that you didn't have to shoot for a publication within electronic music.
Right.
And that's the main difference between the two. And so, yeah, I like went and I was like, cool, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. I've done this for like almost 4 years now. And that show kicked my fucking ass because I don't know. It was the production's different. Because when you think about shooting a band, there's like 4 or 5 members and they're on the stage and you're in the photo pit and you're inches away from them. You take your photos. You're good. It's easy, you know? Like you're right there. They're playing instruments. They're facing you. They're moving, but they're not really moving that much. And when you're shooting a DJ, it's mainly production that you're shooting if you think about it. Like unless you're up on the stage getting those really close-ups like behind the booth, like what you're shooting is the stage in its entirety, and you're shooting the lighting and you're shooting the lasers and the crowd and stuff like that.
It's way harder than you would anticipate, especially like even coming from
I'm getting stressed thinking
even
about
coming from like a different music photography background. It was still stressful. So I think it's okay, and I think one thing to take away for people that are just starting out, like when you go and you shoot your first production, don't be thinking that like you're the worst photographer if your pictures aren't well, if they're not turning out well, because it's really freaking hard. It's really freaking hard.
It is.
You're probably not going to get like an amazing photo album. You might get like a few amazing pics, but you're not going to get like that insane photo album that you know you're going to want to have after your first time shooting.
What happened was I was like shooting and I always like check my pics throughout.
Yeah.
And I was like, these aren't good. I was like, I know that I'm like kind of a wizard in post sometimes and I can really turn stuff around. But like, I was like, why aren't these? I was so frustrated with myself because I was like, why aren't these turning out good?
Yeah.
Like because I've been doing this long enough where I can read lighting.
Right.
And part of that is because I have had some formal education in photography, not a lot at all, but I do know how to read lighting. So I can basically just walk up to a stage, look, and then know what my settings need to be, which is something that you will not know for a very long time. It takes a long time to get there. And I was so mad because I was like, why don't I know?
But that's something that you should be paying attention to, because that's not something that I always pay attention to. Like I always I'll read the light meter and then I'll take the photo and then I'll look at it, and if it's not a good photo, then like I'll do it again. But I'm not always paying attention to like the exact settings. You know what I mean? So that's good that you pay attention to that, and it's something that I definitely need to work on and do better.
Well, I also just know like in my camera, like if my shutter speed goes below a certain point, I'm gonna have motion blur, and I hate that in my photos. And I know if my ISO goes up after a certain point, I'm gonna get noise in my photos, and I hate that. So I know my like limits of in-camera settings that I like to keep it at, and basically I really overcompensated with that show, which is what I do. If I am shooting and it's not going well, I just finger on the shutter. I took like 3,000 photos that day, which is way too much. There were 2 artists that I worked with, and but they ended up being some of my favorite pictures of all time. So I don't know. Learn Lightroom.
Yeah.
And just get really good at Lightroom.
Yeah. What is some other advice that you could give, like some Lightroom advice that you could give people that are just starting out? Even me, like I still feel like I am always trying to get better at Lightroom, and you're really good at it.
Yeah, Victor and I have sat down and like edited before.
Yeah.
It's really hard because all I want to do is just take over and just
but like, what's some advice that like you could give someone?
Download presets. Download like free
other
presets.
People's free presets.
Free presets off the internet. And then, because how I learned Lightroom, a lot of people learn stuff through YouTube tutorials, and I'm really not that kind of person. I think it's great. But I learned by just doing things myself.
Yeah, me too.
Which sometimes
I think that's the best way to learn, doing them yourself and then teaching them again. Yeah. That's like the best method to learning literally anything in the world.
How I got really good at Lightroom was I just downloaded like a bunch of free presets, and then I looked at what those presets did. Like I really just analyzed it and was like, okay, this button will make this do this. And but it also depends on the raw, you know? Yeah. So you just have to, the more you edit, the better you'll get.
Take photos of what you want to get hired for.
Yes.
Put together a portfolio, And then start out small.
If you do landscape, go outside and take pictures.
Yeah, if you want to do
if you want to do family portraits, pull your mom and dad, pull your brother, sister aside, force them. It's so easy to force people to let you take pictures of them, because that is like really like the day that I picked up my DSLR for the first time, I took pictures of my dogs. I took pictures of flowers around the house, just random shit. Because I think if I can stress something right now of like what to do, learn your camera.
Yeah.
More than anything, more than Lightroom, more than business stuff, learn how your camera works. Because for the longest time, I shot with that Canon T3i.
Yeah.
And I always thought, like, if I just had better gear, I would be so good.
Yeah.
That was my mindset for such a long time. And that's not the right mindset to have. Because if you're a good photographer, you can make great photos with the shittiest of gear. That's the most important thing I have to say.
Especially in Lightroom, too. People love to make that excuse, and it's just so far from the truth, because
I didn't edit with Lightroom until, I don't know. It was a few years ago. But I literally I was so bad.
But, like, you could do anything with editing, whether it's Lightroom or even Visco, probably. Like, anything.
Well, that's what I would do. I would just edit stuff on my phone, because I didn't know what else to do.
100%. But, I mean, you just got to build your way up.
Yeah.
You got to work your way up, and then you start doing those things. And, I mean, like, at the beginning, you're not going to make any money at all. There's not even a ton of money in it when you're in it.
We still struggle to make money.
100%. Until you're at, like, the high level where you're shooting, like, A-list artists. That's where you'll be making a lot of money.
I worked for free for a very long time, like a very, very long time. Longer than I should have. But because I know we've had this conversation before, it's really hard to know the point where, like, you have to start asking people for money. Yeah. Because for me, I think it's really important as a content creator to consistently be putting out new content. And so when you're at that point where it's like, well, I shoot shows for free, but I need to be shooting so that I have work, and so my Instagram is updated, and so I'm getting better, and it's really hard to make that transition. Yeah. Sometimes you just need to take a break. That's what I did. I just took 2 months off.
I think you can't think about it like, creating content for your Instagram, it's important, but the more important thing is like having a strong portfolio to show people, which goes back to like literally just getting started, creating portfolio, selling your portfolio, getting your portfolio out there in front of publications, get hired by publications or get shooting for publications, and then transfer that over to emailing managers and talking to managers of artists. Yeah.
I think working for a publication is a really great way to get started in general, because then you're not working with the artist directly. That's like, there's more risk with that. Right. Because if you do a shitty job for an artist, they're not going to recommend you for stuff. And if someone else is like, hey, you worked with this person before, they might be like, they will say, no, don't hire them. They did a shitty job for me. But when it's with a publication, like, it's a lot lower. You can fuck up. You can fuck up with the publication and still be okay. Yeah.
That's a great point. That's something that I've never thought of. But yeah, more risk, more reward. Shooting with an artist, if you kill it, then they'll want to hire you again next time you're in town. Yeah. So publication, shooting for an artist, and then going from not getting paid to getting paid.
You'll figure it out on your own time.
Yeah.
It's a personal thing. Like,
for sure.
I can't sit here and tell someone what to do and have it be able to apply to everyone.
And it also depends on like your life situation.
Yeah.
For sure, which is a big part of it. And like, how bad do you want it? Are you willing to sacrifice other things to like not get paid to build your portfolio and do things?
That's something I want to talk about, because
for sure,
we're just gonna cut this down. Like,
I don't know if I'm gonna cut it down. I think I'm just gonna keep all of it. I feel like everything's been really good, except like
some podcasts are 2 hours long. So
I mean,
it's fine.
Everything's been very constructive.
Yeah.
Please let me know in the comments what you think, and if this is good stuff that we're talking about, if it's tactical advice that you could use.
It's the first episode. We don't know what we're doing.
But you don't know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. All of these questions have been on my mind, and something that like when I was just getting started, I wanted to hear someone that is
Can
in
we
the
talk about how we met?
industry talk about it. Yeah, well, I mean, it's
Because that's
very,
the basis of this,
it's-
right?
yeah, pretty much.
That's
I mean,
what we're talking about.
I really don't DM a ton of people, but I was trying to shoot at Concord Music Hall. And so I was DMing some of the photographers that shot there. I saw in the gallery some of the pictures that Allie was one of the photographers who shot there. And I said, hey, like, what's up? I saw that you shot at Concord. I loved your work. What camera do you shoot with? Yeah.
That was.
And that's a great first question
That's
of like,
why I wanted to bring this up.
how did you get started? Because when you ask someone, how did you get started? It's like,
I can't sit there and tell you my life story. I can't do that.
it's really hard to respond to because
Yeah.
it's such an open-ended question that you're like,
Those are the DMs
I don't
that
know.
I just don't even respond.
respond. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's like the best opening question is like, hey, what gear do you shoot with? Because it's so
Yeah.
easy for me to respond to that. And then it also just kind of opens up
Yeah.
conversation. But the reason that like I started working with Victor and I think that we became friends in the first place is because I still get that question a lot. And I have a lot of conversations with people who are just starting out. And a lot of them will be like, what do I have to do? Just tell me what I have to do and I'll do it. And I'm like, all right, you have to drop everything that you're
Yeah.
doing in your life
Well,
and just do this.
I don't know about that. I don't know if that's true. I don't
I'm-
think that's
I'm
true
saying-
because you could definitely do it without doing that. You just
I'm being dramatic.
you need there, but there is it's a big time sacrifice.
I'm
like,
just saying
you have to learn a lot.
What it goes off of is I personally don't think that you can be number one at something if you're trying
Yeah.
to be number one at multiple things.
Yeah, for
So-
sure. But like, if you cannot, you physically like you are working another job, then it's really tough. To,
Oh
like,
yeah, I'm not saying quit
like-
your job and drop
yeah,
out of school.
Yeah.
I mean, like I did that, but I did
Right.
it with time
Right.
and when I was in the right place to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, if you want to be the number one photographer or whatever, and then you also want to be the number one teacher and the number one this and the number one whatever, it's like, I just don't think that you could do
Yeah.
that. I don't think
Yeah.
that you could do that.
Well, of course, but I don't think people are all trying to be the number
I
one
know.
photographer and the number one teacher. I don't think those are the people that are going to be listening to this.
Well, it's no,
But-
because a lot of the people that reach out to me are like, I go to school for this thing that's completely unrelated
Yeah.
to this. I want to do both. And I'm like, you can take photos as a
Right.
hobby, but you can't. I mean, think about how hard it is to just get paying jobs in
Yeah.
general when you're dedicating, when it's your full-time job.
Yeah, it's tough.
So I don't think that you can do both.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm sorry. But
Well, you can't do both to the max, but like
Yeah,
at the
to the
beginning, I'm
max.
saying
yeah,
it's definitely.
I'm a long-term person. I don't think in short-term stuff like that.
Well, it's not even short term. It's just like when you are first getting started, I wouldn't say like is it a good option to like literally only focus on music photography? Yeah, if that's something that like you really could see yourself, but if it's something that like you just kind of want to like dabble in, I don't think you should drop everything just to
Yeah,
like
well,
try it at first. But
That's
then
not the
then if you pick up
people-
momentum, then it's like
no one who reaches out to me is like, I just want to dabble in this. The people
Right.
who reach out to me
for
are
sure,
like,
it's like a passion. They want
yeah. They're like, I want to
to
do this. Like, I'm
course.
super passionate about this. And so I like the ones that I do take the time to like tell them like, you can't, I don't want to say you can't do anything outside of it, but it's like, I just know all the sacrifices that I've made to be at the point where I am now.
Yeah,
And there's no one out there who's on tour with a big DJ who doesn't
no,
not
of course
dedicate their
not.
life
Of
to it.
course not.
My whole point in saying
Right.
this was to say that whenever we did talk about it or like whatever, Victor's always taken what I've said and like done it and then been like, what's next? And I really appreciated that because a lot of people, like, I'll tell them like what to do or what I've done or whatever, and then they just like, it's so much work. Like, I think I'll
Yeah.
do it my own
I
way.
mean, to be fair, like you really didn't. You've helped me, but it's not
Yeah.
like you've done insurmountable things for me
I'm not
because
saying
you
that I
also
need you, but
focus on photos and like you've helped me tweak my photo editing process. But a lot of my stuff is video.
You have a
content
lot
related.
of other people though that you've
Help
like,
work
worked
with.
with.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like another
But
thing.
I'm just
like,
saying I don't have like the same relationship.
it's a
with
great
you,
thing
like
to
anyone else.
have someone to help you with stuff, like to have a mentor, like asking you for help. Like you need to ask people for help and get your photos destroyed by them, get your videos destroyed, and like get like
Are you
notes
saying that
taken.
because I ripped apart the last video that you sent me?
No, of course not. But like it's not. I literally send all of my work to other people. That was the first time I've sent you one of my videos.
Yeah.
But I do that with everyone I'm friends with. Every single one of my friends, I send them my stuff, and I'm like, yo, tell me what you don't like about this. Like, I don't really care what you like. Just tell me what you don't like so then I could get better. And same thing goes for photos, for videos, like for anything. The only way you're going to get better is like if you get constructive criticism on all your work and you don't have an ego. Yeah.
That's another thing is like you have to be able to handle rejection. Like
unless you're like just like an artist who doesn't really give a fuck about what everyone else thinks and you just
no,
think
I'm saying
you're the best and you're really good, then like do whatever you want. But I'm just saying from my personal experience, the only time I get better is when people literally will go through my work and will be like, this isn't good, this isn't good, this isn't good, this isn't good. And then I could review that and make changes, or for the next time I'm shooting, be like, okay, this is what I need to do better.
I'm talking more about because like I've reached out to people or companies before, like a long time ago, not recently, but have been told like you're not good enough yet. Like reach back out to us when you get more experience. Like literally word for word that. And it's like a lot of people will just take that to heart or let it like get them down. And it's you can't like anytime you're gonna get so many no's and you're gonna get even more unread messages and emails and whatever. So you just have to be okay with that.
Right.
That's like a huge part.
All right.
Wanting to work in the music industry.
So let's wrap this up. We got a ton of great content. I just tried wrapping up like 10 minutes ago. That didn't really happen, but we put in a lot of great content since then. So glad we kept talking for a little bit.
Well, we've just barely talked about everything that we could.
There's just like
we tried to cover all of the basics.
There's so much to talk about, and I really tried giving like the most tactical advice possible. So this is really useful to people because I know like when I watch stuff, it's very frustrating when someone is getting interviewed and I want the person interviewing them to like ask like, okay, how did you do that? And go farther and deeper so that like I can apply it to my life and I could take little bits and pieces. So I think I've done a decent job. I really would love to hear like feedback. If you're like an aspiring photographer or videographer, please let me know in the comments or the DMs how this is not affecting, but if this is tactical enough.
Tear him apart in the comments.
Tell me what I can do better. Tell me how I can be better because I want to be the best. I want no weaknesses.
This is why we're friends.
No weaknesses. I want to be the best. And that's facts. Let's just wrap it up there. We went through like a little review. I don't think there's much else to say. Do you have anything else to say? Anything else you want to plug? Yeah.
Oh, they're not gonna know why that's funny, but we'll keep that as an inside joke.
Well, no, the Kayvon interview is already posted. Yeah.
Really, really, really short. Yeah, at Spring Awakening, I was helping Victor with one of these, and he didn't ask at the end of the interview what he wanted to plug, and it's not the biggest deal in the world. I literally stopped. I was like, ask him what he wants to plug. Yeah, so
if you want, go look at the Kayvon interview. It is literally like 20 seconds before the end.
How did I do with that? We didn't talk about that.
You say something, and then I look over, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Do you have anything you want to plug?
I need to watch that. I haven't watched that yet. Did I do okay with that?
No, you did great. It looks great. The double camera looks awesome.
Just follow me on Instagram. That's it.
At
Allie _Mischen. My name.
I'll put it right here.
Am I linked in the description?
Nah. But like I'll literally put it on the screen.
It's in our contract that I have to be.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Appreciate all your comments and everything. It's the first episode, so Hope it went well. Hoping to only improve and get some cooler guests than Allie on here. Cool. Thank you so much. Bye.
I'm number one.